topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV, where we bring you educational information from top local experts in the fields of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Now sit back and listen to experts in family law, association law, hearing loss, business brokers, home care, along with many other topics. Now here are your hosts, Steve-O and Sophia.
Hey, good morning, Tampa. Welcome to another Ask the Expert show where we bring you some of the greatest experts in the field of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. This show this morning, this is the last Monday of the month at 9 o'clock Eastern time. And something hit me about 2 weeks ago. This expert, our attorney Debbie Baker, is like, I'm like such a huge fan of hers. And our demographics, we have an older demographics, and estate planning is so important. So I did something I rarely do. I mean, I'm talking about after 15 years, I rarely do. I wanted to run this show a lot more often than just her live show once a week. So we're going to be running this show, replaying this show each month in different time slots, which we will be telling you about. But this show is so important. Let me welcome my buddy, attorney Debbie Baker. Good morning, attorney.
Hey, Steve. Hey, Steve.
Hey,
Good to see you.
Do you like pinch yourself sometimes still when people call you attorney Debbie Baker?
I tell them not to call me that.
Why?
I've just never been immersed in titles. So, I figure if people want to call me something, they could call me Dr. Deb.
Okay. Well,
I became a doctor.
tell
Yeah.
people, first of all, about your firm. You're located in the Tampa area.
I'm in Tampa. I'm licensed to practice law in the state of Florida. So I run a concierge practice, which means at no charge. I go to people who are like within a 50-mile radius of me. If it's outside that and I need to go, maybe there's some kind of fee. But what I've learned is people are much more comfortable sitting in their own home, talking about pretty much anything. And maybe unless it was a divorce thing, maybe they wouldn't want to be in their home. But in the world of estate planning, they like being in their own home. It's their surroundings. And I think had I had a home built for an office, I would have done it anyway. But my home was built way before I became an attorney. So it's really not set up to have people in here, easily. Cat and I fit in the office. There isn't a lot more in terms of human beings that would fit in the office. So I run the concierge practice, and so very soonly, if I don't want to date myself, soonly it will be 10 years since I graduated from law school, and it remains just a huge gift to be able to see how I can help. It's all about helping.
Debbie, since we're going to be replaying the show, I have got to share your story with people because it's so amazing.
Okay.
Because you became a lawyer later on in life.
Later on in life,
most people start, and you were a coach.
Yes. Yes.
Which amazing. So tell people about how this all became.
Well, I've always been driven to be of service, and I've always I'm less so, but I've always been free to tell people how they should live their lives. And only over time have I learned any kind of tact or diplomacy about that. I developed really, really good intuition, and the more you use it, the more you have it. So I had lots of coaching situations where people told me I was quote unquote living in their living room. How did I know something I shared which I didn't know? But the coaching was all about we sell ourselves short, like people saying they're too old to go back to school, or or they're too busy to go back to school, or something like that. So I did that for a long time, and then I took on God in 1984. And every time my coaching practice lagged, he would send me a new client for a lunch or for a big intervention. In December of '08, he told me to go to law school when I asked him, should I keep coaching or get a job? So I got over my shock, I guess, for want of a better word. I just decided on working at it. And it was pretty astounding. I started law school in 2011 and I graduated in 2015. And the whole thing was glorious. It was just absolutely, it was really glorious. I never used the word before. So I loved it, and I learned, and I laughed, and had fun, and I graduated and decided to do estate planning once I passed the bar, which was also a gift, because it's a great way to be of service. It just continues the capacity to serve people who have difficult decisions to make and difficult choices to make, and let them make it, help them make them. You can't make a wrong decision. For the most part, pretty much anything you decide legally, you can change, at least before you die. So you can change your mind about that. And if a person does not have some kind of plan, the state, meaning like the state of Florida or the state of Georgia or whatever, they will have a plan for you. And it's called intestacy, which means if you die without any kind of will or something, your heirs will get all of their property. And oftentimes that's the thing that somebody doesn't want. So the estate planning turned into working on probate to help people resolve family issues and get that done and get property transferred easily. And I always try to do it. I've told you this often. If it can't be fun, I don't want to do it. Well, it's not always fun.
That's your motto.
It's not always fun. And if we're not going to laugh, I don't want to do it. Or if we can't find a way to laugh. And that's not always easy. Because we're all human and we all have our own interpretations of what really happened. So, I always like to use you as an example, Steve. When your brother told you you had to do your estate plan, and you did it. Well, for whatever you did it either because you respected him, you were afraid of him. Who knows? I mean, you could make up a zillion reasons, right? You were tired of hearing him tell you. Well, both. Okay, both. Okay. And you could have easily, based upon your history, said, I'm never going to do it because you keep asking me. It's like you didn't do it. It wouldn't be that you even did it without telling him. You just didn't do it because you were going to show him, right? You're going to show him the bully older brother or younger brother or whatever. You're going to show him. And that's what people do. And that's what people do. So they react out of their own hurt and their own grief. And I've had a couple of situations where that's exactly what happens. What could have been straightforward turns into a morass because the beneficiaries can't agree on physical pieces of property, tangible personal property that they get because their parent did not specifically say, Steve gets these things and his brother gets these things and they can talk about these things. The parent didn't say anything. And now there are 3 beneficiaries and the family relationships are dissolving over this. So that's not fun. And there's not a lot of laughter, and it's necessary. And So yeah, but that's why I do it, because it's a great gift and I like doing it and I really like people and I've met some amazing, amazing people that I've been able to help.
Well,
Um,
Debbie, we've been doing this for several years now, and I bring this up because I have so many friends, and I'm sure listeners out there do too, that said, "Gosh, I wish I would have done this," or "I wish my Sophia, the same thing. She said, "I wish I'd have gone and become a veterinarian," but they never do it. But
they never
you
do it.
actually did it. So I'm like this huge fan of yours. Plus, we
Thank you.
both believe in the Lord so much, and I didn't know the Lord had such a big part in your decision, which is amazing. Um, but
Good.
one of the first things you said to me, Debbie, was I. It takes a certain heart to be an estate planning attorney, first of
Uh-huh.
all. But the first thing you said to me is, I want to keep my clients out of probate.
Right.
You don't hear too many attorneys say that because you make a lot of money doing that and it's very expensive. But
It
here
can
you
be.
are saying, I want to keep them out of probate.
Yeah. Yeah. Probate is, well, just like these siblings who are now upset about whatever. Their mother, their mother could have done a better job. Um, didn't know better. It's not that their mother did anything wicked. Um, just her will didn't have enough language in it. So, and you can stay out of probate with. There's a question here about what's the difference between a will and a trust. And yes, I can work with people in Pensacola, Florida. So the a will is a document that lays out and names the person you want to be responsible for distributing anything you have owned only in your name when you pass. If people have all of their things beneficiary designated, they've named somebody to get whatever it is after they die, that doesn't need an attorney. But if they don't, they do. It gives you a place to list all those physical items that you have and who you want to get it. It also, with a good estate plan, is the catch-all in the event, God forbid, there's a medical malpractice suit, or the people who were at Camp Lejeune who are still waiting for settlement from the government about the Camp Lejeune problem. Medical malpractice, personal injury, car accidents, where somebody dies, and then there has to be a vehicle to create the settlement. And it's public. A will is public. So if somebody has only a will and it gets recorded, which it is by law supposed to be recorded with the county in which the person lived, um, anybody can find it on the public record. So they can see that you had money, or they can see that you had minor children or whatever. A trust is where you designate your trust as a beneficiary sometimes of assets, or you put your home in a trust and then you assign somebody to distribute the assets of the trust, and it's private. A trust is also I always recommend it when there are minor children involved, because children can't inherit money until they're 18, and you don't necessarily want somebody a child getting it when they're 18. So then you lay out at what ages and stages you want somebody to inherit. Not everybody needs a trust. If you've got beneficiary designations, um, and you don't have young children or grandchildren that you want to provide for, because you're going to let your children take care of their children, sometimes all you need is the will and the power of attorney and your healthcare surrogate. And if you've got all those designations in place, then again, there's nothing for the will to do.
We
This is
That's a
cool.
question we got
We
from
got,
Greg. We appreciate the
if you live in
question, Greg.
Florida and move to another state, is the will still in effect, or you have to do it all over again? I learned this in my civil procedure class like 2 weeks in. It's a great answer and it's true. It depends. So Florida's will requirements, execution requirements are 2 witnesses and a notary. Okay. If you move to a state that that their requirements are exactly the same, then your will be fine. If you move to there's one state, and I don't remember which it is, that requires 3 witnesses and a notary. If that were the case, your will would not work. The thing that I do recommend always for people who move states is if you've moved to another state and you become a permanent resident there, you get a new driver's license, voter's card, that you do a new power of attorney, new healthcare surrogate, new living will, because you want those documents to be compliant, is a legal term. You want them to be compliant with whatever the document familiar format is in the new state. And the last thing you want in an emergency is for a banker or financial institution or a doctor to say, we don't acknowledge these because they don't match what we're used to. So I work in one retirement community here in Tampa, where they've moved states. Their wills are fine generally, and I always recommend they get new powers of attorney, healthcare surrogates, and living wills, so that when they go to their doctors or they go to the financial institutions to use it, nobody's looking at them funny and says we won't honor it because it doesn't match ours. But yes,
I got to tell you, Debbie, we started promoting your show a couple of days out, and we got a letter from somebody who actually follows your show, loves your show, said the best present, you're going to love this, the best present that I ever gave my mother and father was getting them an appointment with an estate planning attorney and making sure they were covered. Is that not amazing?
That's so exciting. Whoever that is.
Yeah.
Wow. James, you ask a great question because people are confused. People often call and tell me they need a living will, and that's not what they need. Okay. A living will is the document that you sign to let people know when you want life support withdrawn. It goes into effect after, like, your physician so there are 3. There's an end stage condition, which I say, like, end stage kidney condition. There's a terminal condition, stage 4 cancer, let's say, persistent vegetative state, where you're breathing, but you really don't have any life. Okay. If you're in Florida and remember Terry Schiavo, you can look that up, or you can look that up. I always recommend people initial persistent vegetative state. Do miracles happen? Yes. Do people come out of comas after years? Yes. Okay. But for me, the living will is to give the people who love you, let them know when you no longer want to be kept on life support, which is food, intubation, feeding via tube, CPR, surgery. So the living will is what somebody has if you're dying and the doctors say there's no reasonable medical probability of recovery. And they do that because the last thing they want to do is promise your loved ones you'll get better or tell your loved ones you're going to die. So it's it's a most informed decision. And then somebody has the right to go in and say, Mom doesn't want to live this way. Dad doesn't want to live this way. We're going to let them go. I recommend that all the time for everybody. So that's the living will. The will is what I described a few minutes ago. That's where it's a document where you appoint somebody to disperse your estate, anything in your estate that you have a beneficiary designated. You appoint somebody and they're the one who acts on that. So the living will is only while you're living, and the regular will comes into effect only after you pass.
Hey, and if you saw what Terry Shively's family went through by not doing this.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Horrible. And it can be avoided.
That was really sad.
Yeah.
Debbie, wow, we got a lot of good questions today.
Yeah.
We're
Thank all
this
three of you. Yeah.
Yeah, and you know what? We know there's a lot of people out there listening. We keep getting your emails. Uh, this show is going to be rerun next week, next Monday, at 9:25 Eastern Standard Time. Debbie, we have a couple minutes left.
Sure.
Tell people it's so important that they take care of their affairs and not wait, because we see all the time so and so Pat died in a car crash. I mean, 26 years old, 35 years old. We never know. Uh, we know today, but we never know tomorrow. And I know, Debbie, people put this off, and it's something that should be taken care of. Tell people why they should come to you.
Oh gosh.
Put
You
you on
know,
the spot.
uh, well, I do create laughter as often as I can and is appropriate. Um, I really am compassionate. Um, and I'm not saying other
Beyond.
attorneys are not. My heart, like this family I'm describing with the three siblings, my heart breaks for them. It just breaks for them. Um, I'm not here to convince anybody to do anything. I just want people to leave feeling that they've been taken care of. Like Steve said about somebody who called and said the best gift he ever gave his parents was to take them to an estate planning attorney. I'm not committed that people work with me. If I'd been younger when I graduated, chronologically younger when I graduated, I would be very offended when somebody said, I've hired so and so. I mean, like, I would have taken it hugely personally. Now it's just get it done. You know, Greg said Pensacola, just get it done. I mean, I can help Greg, there's no doubt about it. And if he decides he wants to work with somebody closer to home, I can probably find him a referral inside the state of Florida that's a lot closer to Pensacola. So it wouldn't necessarily be somebody I know, but it would be somebody who's in my legal community. You have no idea. If you haven't been through probate, you just can't you just can't have an idea of the grief. Even in the most uncontested single beneficiary, it's grief and it can be avoided. So do the loved ones your favor. I've said to Steve before, if you hate your family, don't do it. I mean, really, let them suffer because they will. And if you care at all about your family, just get it done. It's not written in stone. You can do it over again. You can change your mind. You can have a fight with your best friend who you appointed and change that in the document. All of that can be done, but don't wait. Don't wait till you have a lot of money or get a new job or have your first baby or buy a house. Just do it and protect the people you love.
Debbie, tell people how they can reach you, the ones who are listening on radio or on iHeart right now who cannot see
I'm not sure I answered Steve's question about why people should work with me, but anyway, I'm at 813-586-1332, 813-586-1332. My email address is Deb Baker, two B's in the middle, Deb Baker at London Baker Law, London like the city, London Baker Law. The website is londonbakerlaw.com. I return all my phone calls within one business day. And that way, if I don't, you have permission to call me again because somehow you got lost. I forgot. I missed it. But I'll talk to anybody. My consultations are always free. But even if I'm not somebody who can help you, if you call from a different state, I can give you general information of questions to ask. And then you'd have to find somebody in your state to do the legal work because I'm not licensed there. So,
Debbie,
anyways,
thank you so much. We'll see you next month, and we'll be replaying your show throughout the
thanks,
month.
Greg and Mitzi and James, for the questions. I really appreciate it. Have a great day.
Thank you so much.
All right. Bye, Rebel.
That's attorney Debbie Baker. We have a great show coming up for our Nashville audience. Rebel, do we have our second guest on?
Yes.
Okay, good. I got to tell you, we want to welcome the people from Nashville. for some reason, we got so many letters, people wanting to know about LASIK. And I got to tell you that that is very dear to my heart because I actually had LASIK and I am the biggest fan of it. Let me introduce you to our expert, one of the greatest, I guess, ophthalmologists in the Nashville area, Wang Vision Institute. We've got Dr. G with us today. Good morning, Dr. G.
Hey, good morning. Good morning. Thank you for having me on your show here.
Oh, so Dr. G, I got to tell you, LASIK changed my life.
Yes.
It was, and what was amazing was it was painless. It didn't take long, but all of a sudden, when all that fuzziness went away and everything was clear to me, it was mind-boggling.
100%, 100%. I tell all my patients it's life-changing. It really is life-changing. I mean, I
It
don't know what your
absolutely
perception
is.
was before surgery, but I mean, I have patients come in just they're surprised, they're shocked at everything they were missing, just what they were actually seeing versus what actually things were supposed to look like.
And what was amazing is there was never any pain,
That's right.
and it was a pretty quick procedure.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
So tell everybody, we got so many letters, Dr. G, about people wanting to know about LASIK, and we're also going to talk about cataracts, so we have an older audience. Uh, Tell people about Wang Vision.
Yes, so Wang Vision Institute, we're one of the premier ophthalmology groups in the area. Dr. Wang helped establish this practice about 20 years ago. And then me and Dr. Jones and Dr. Wang are the three surgeons. So we perform 8 different surgeries to help patients out of glasses. And, so I trained at Johns Hopkins, then I went to Chapel Hill for medical school, did all my ophthalmology training at Duke, and then I specialize in what's called refractive surgery. So the eye is only about an inch long. There's over 12 subspecialists even within that field. So for refractive surgery, I'm a front part of the eye surgeon. So if patients want to get out of glasses, I have a way for them. So I essentially do 8 different surgeries to help patients out of glasses. So it just depends on their goals, their needs, their prescriptions, what they're looking for. But that's what we specialize in.
What made you decide to go into ophthalmology?
Hey, good question. So actually, my background is in biomedical engineering and applied mathematics. So I have like a very quantitative background. And when I was in medical school, initially I thought about maybe cardiology, but then I found ophthalmology. So ophthalmology is very quantitative in terms of other medical specialties. I can kind of see the problem and it's more numbers based. Not only can I see the problem, I can just diagnose it and then I can treat it medically or surgically. So I'm not having to refer to multiple specialists. I can see the problem and I can give you both medical options and surgical options. And all the surgeries are very clean surgeries, very safe, very low risk surgeries, which just makes it easier for the surgeon as well.
Do you ever think about, I mean, you've done so many, especially LASIK surgeries, you've done so many of them. You ever think about, because I know what it feels like. It was the most amazing feeling, Dr. G, when I came out of the LASIK surgery and how clear it was like you just don't realize when your eyesight starts going bad. You don't realize until you have LASIK how
Correct.
much you were missing out on. Do you ever think about how you're improving people's lives?
Hey, that's the reason. That's one of the biggest reason I chose this subspecialty, right? Just having that patient walk in the door and just say, "Doc, I can see," makes a night and a day of a difference. I've had patients. One patient that I really remember brought his mother for vision correction. Really, she was starting to exhibit some signs of memory loss and just kind of difficulty, more day-to-day stuff. And then I did vision correction surgery on her. And oh my gosh, I mean, the son really, like, he came to me and he says he got his mom back. So she was way more involved in the community again, a lot more independent, was driving around. You know, I've actually went into their community and even spoken a few times. So it really is life changing. And like you said, a lot of people don't attribute things to vision. You know, they're like, oh, maybe this is it. Maybe this is why I
Yes.
get this. You know, maybe this is going. No, I mean, your vision, you know, it kind of helps perceive how you see things, feel things, do things, your mood. So
Oh, it changed. You know, something else. Of course, people want to know how long will the procedure last for? And I got to tell you, and I had mine 15 years ago, Dr. G.
yeah.
They told me it would last 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to tell you, to this day, I still don't need reading glasses.
Awesome. That's really
15
good.
years ago.
Yeah, that's really good. That's right.
So you do a procedure called a smile procedure.
That's right.
How's that different from LASIK?
Good question. So SMILE is actually another laser vision correction procedure. So both LASIK and SMILE are done on the cornea. So the cornea is the window to the eye, and SMILE reshapes that cornea so that you don't need glasses. SMILE stands for small incision lenticule extraction. So it creates a very small piece of tissue within the cornea and just creates a very small incision, maybe 2 to 4 millimeters. So there's not a large flap like in LASIK, which is about 20 millimeters. And so through this small incision, I go in there, remove that piece of tissue that the laser created, and then the cornea reshapes itself so that patients don't need glasses. So SMILE has been around for a few years, multiple years actually. I mean, globally, about 10 million eyes have been performed worldwide. Here in Nashville, we were the first to perform SMILE. And oftentimes, if someone's a good candidate for SMILE and LASIK now, we recommend going with SMILE. Just because with SMILE, it's a smaller incision, so you don't have to worry about a flap ever getting dislodged or getting hit, even though it's very rare. And also because it's a smaller incision, there's a lot less dry eye. But in terms of visual outcomes, both have great visual outcomes, just like have you experienced.
So who's a good candidate for SMILE?
So SMILE really just depends. The number one thing that we first check for is what's called a stable prescription. So when patients come in, we first ask, hey, has your glasses been stable for at least a year or two? Because we don't want to make anything permanent when it keeps changing. So once something is changing, SMILE is approved to treat nearsightedness anywhere from the range of -1 to -10. And it can also treat up to 3 diopters of astigmatism. So as long as you kind of fall in that prescription range and patients have what's called enough corneal tissue for us to reshape, you're a good candidate for it.
What if someone has been told that they have astigmatism? Can they still have the SMILE?
Yeah, good question. So, I mean, I guess let's back up a little bit. So, what is astigmatism? So, astigmatism is that shape of the cornea. You know, it's supposed to be kind of shaped like a basketball, but for some people, it's shaped more like a football. And that's what's called irregular astigmatism or regular astigmatism. So, it just bends the light a little bit more tricky. And that's when patients need glasses to correct that astigmatism. So SMILE, we still use that same laser and it can correct that astigmatism. So it can treat up to 3 diopters of astigmatism.
We just got our first text in from Nashville, James in Nashville. He said, I was one of the people who wrote in that you should do a LASIK show. I want my commission. He said, I'm really interested in the SMILE. Are there any side effects?
Good question. So with SMILE, like with any surgical procedure, there's always a small risk of infection, inflammation. But overall, SMILE is a very safe and effective procedure. Because it's a much smaller incision, patients have a lot less dry eye, and even the dry eye they have goes back to their baseline within a few months. Some patients, because we're reshaping the cornea, have a little bit of what's called glare and halos, just kind of at headlights, mostly at nighttime. But over time, those headlights and those glare and halos also go back to normal and get much, much smaller. Beyond that, the vision correction procedure, kind of like have you noted, just lasts for many years. The thing that it will not do is kind of stop the other aging process. So in our eyes, just like a camera has a lens, our eyeballs have a lens. And over time, that lens slowly becomes more and more stiff. And that's when eventually patients will still need readers or cheaters. And over time, that same lens, not only does it become stiff, and it becomes cloudy, which is called a cataract. So SMILE won't prevent those things from happening, but until those happen, which is not till your 50s or 60s, you're going to experience great vision.
Now, could you tell people what it's like the day of the surgery? What can they expect?
Yeah, good question. So, like you noted, it's not a very long procedure. It's a very clean procedure. Typically, when patients come into our office, we first kind of make sure they understand everything. At this point, if they're at the surgery room, they've already signed all the consent forms. To help patients kind of calm their nerves down a little bit, we give them a little Valium, and then we put them underneath the laser. So with the laser, it's completely bladeless. And then we use topical drops to numb the eye. So it's completely bladeless and it's completely painless. So very quick and clean procedure. Underneath that laser, patients feel a little bit of pressure for maybe about 20 seconds. And that pressure is the laser is holding the eye steady while it's firing that pattern. After that, I go in there, remove that piece of tissue, and the cornea reshapes itself. Typically, I tell patients the first day, just because they've had the Valium, just go home and take it easy. Then we see the patients the next day, about 1 to 2 weeks after, and about a month after. And already, by the day one visit, patients are a lot better. Patients actually drive themselves, and they're just shocked at how well they could see. That bulk of the healing probably takes about a week or two. And then typically by the time patients come in for that month visit, they've even forgotten that they used to wear glasses.
Oh, God. Hey, Dr. G, I got this great text that just came in from Monty. He's in, can't understand. Anyway, he said, I've heard so many good things about the Wang Vision Clinic that I'm having my cataracts done there. That's pretty amazing. He's going to go all the way to Nashville to have his cataracts done by you. But he wants to know, when a patient comes in, do they decide if they want LASIK or SMILE, or is it up to you, the doctor? That's a
That's
good
a good
question.
Hey, that's a really good question. And I'm
Yeah.
excited you're coming here to have your cataract surgery. We
Can you believe that, coming all the way in?
Yeah,
Gosh, that's
I mean,
amazing.
that's awesome. But hey, yeah, I mean, we have patients from all over that actually will fly here and actually will stay here for the week and get their surgery done, get their next post-op day one visit, post-op week one visit, and just fly back. In fact, in terms of cataract surgery, we're probably the #1 center worldwide that uses what's called a laser. So only a fraction of surgeons, one, have the laser, and then two, know how to use the laser. But for us, we like to use the laser for all of our cataract surgeries just because it's kind of a more safer and efficient procedure. But to answer the question, yes. So whenever someone comes in, we assess the eye fully. The eye is kind of like a computer. It has multiple parts to it. So we get a lot of diagnostic equipment, and then we do a medical examination to kind of assess how each one of those parts is working. And depending on what's not working and how old the patient is and what their goals are, then we recommend a surgery. So if someone's kind of already in the age where they're in readers, even if we did SMILE and we got rid of their distance, they would still need the readers. So if someone's in a bifocal. So at that point, we might offer a different surgery. So it really just depends.
Well, you're getting already a fan club already, Dr. G, for your first show, and you'll be back again with this next month. But Mike wants to know, since Wang Vision is so far ahead of everyone, what is new that's coming out in ophthalmology?
Oh wow, that's not an easy question to answer because there's a lot always coming out. Kind of like I talked about, the eye is 1 inch long, but there's over 12 subspecialists. So within my subspecialty, things that are always changing is one, technologies. So when we remove cataracts, or when we do what are called clear lens exchanges, where we go in and take that stiff lens where people can no longer read, we can put in enhanced lenses inside the eye that kind of functions like a bifocal, but inside the eye. So it can get rid of glasses in the distance, it can get rid of astigmatism, and it can get reading glasses. So the nature of those lenses keeps changing. So that's always keeps changing. The equipment in terms of how we do the surgery always keeps changing. So it leads to a faster recovery, less chance of infection, less chance of inflammation. In terms of SMILE, there's being studies. Currently, SMILE, we can't use it to treat, we can use it to treat people that are nearsighted and astigmatism. But if someone's farsighted, so if they have like a prescription of maybe a +3 or a +2, currently SMILE, we can't do that. But there being studies that are conducted where in the future we can even use SMILE to do the same.
Here's another text. Do you have optometrist on staff?
We do. So the surgeons, the main surgeons are I and Dr. Jones and Dr. Wayne, and then the two optometrists are Dr. Zimmerman and Dr. Wish, and they kind of work hand in hand with us, seeing a lot of the patients, helping with preoperative and postoperative care, but they don't do any surgeries.
So I had LASIK, and now I'm hearing about SMILE. Which one would I have been more happier with? I mean, I was so happy with LASIK, and now I'm hearing about SMILE now.
Yes. I mean, at the end of the day, in terms of visual outcomes, both LASIK and SMILE, they have both equal, excellent, great outcomes. So visually, they're giving you the same benefit. Essentially, both are reshaping the cornea kind of in different ways. With LASIK, you probably had two lasers, one laser to create the flap, and then another laser to actually reshape that cornea and put the flap back down. With SMILE, one advantage is that it's just one laser. And then two, kind of like we mentioned before, just because it's a smaller incision and no large flap, patients never have to worry about that flap getting dislodged. So really, when I'm talking to my law enforcement officers, my patients that are my MMA fighters, for them, I'm like, hey, really, maybe not LASIK for you, just because even though the risk is very small, the flap could get dislodged. Versus in SMILE, they never have to worry about that. But in terms of visual outcomes, you would have been equally happy either way.
Okay. So how long does SMILE last for?
Same thing. So
Wow.
both LASIK and SMILE, they essentially are reshaping the cornea just in different ways. But until you kind of get into that reading glasses stage or that cataract stage, it's going to last.
So are there any like common misconceptions about SMILE out there?
Some people worry that, hey, SMILE sounds newer. Is it as safe as LASIK? And actually, that's a big misconception out there. So recently, 10 million eyes have been performed globally. So it's a very true and tried procedure, and actually, even has its own advantages over LASIK. Other patients also worry, hey, can this treat astigmatism? And like we touched base, it definitely can treat astigmatism. Another worry patients always have about their eyes is, hey, doc, is it going to hurt? What happens if I squeeze? What happens if I move? Am I going to mess up something?
Yes.
And all of that is controlled. It's a very painless procedure. We put what's called an eyelid opener, so you can't really blink or move the eye. And really, I'm in control. So even if you move the eye, me as a surgeon, I'm not firing any laser. I'm not manipulating any tissue unless it's safe. So I tell my patients, when you're here, just breathe. A lot of patients, just the anxiety is more nerve-wracking for them than the actual procedure.
God, we're getting a lot of text for your first show today.
Awesome.
What about, are you allowed to get your eyes wet?
Good question. So I typically say after the procedure, try to avoid swimming pools for about 2 weeks and lakes for about 4 weeks. I say showering and working out, stuff like that is totally fine. If you're going to work out, I say just put a sweatband so that the sweat doesn't get directly into the eye and irritate it. And when you're showering, as long as you're not just dousing your head in the water like this, you can just let it kind of run down.
Okay. Tell people, we're scrolling your phone number down, but there's a lot of people listening on iHeart right now on radio. How can they reach your clinic?
There's multiple ways. So Wang Vision Institute is the name of our practice. Our phone number is 615-321-8881. Those are the easiest ways, but even on our website, you can kind of reach us through a link. There's a correspondent link. And then my email is dr, my last name, GUDURU, at wangvisioninstitute.com. So I'm always happy to help answer questions, field questions, kind of direct patients. This is what I like to do.
It's pretty obvious. This is your first show. You've got all thousands of people listening and watching right now. And gosh, you did such a wonderful job. We're so lucky to have Wang Vision Institute as our expert. You will be back again with us in the next several months. And I'm so glad we've got you. I'm so glad. And Wang will be on. We'll be running the show again. Plus, you can go back on iHeart's library and pull today's show. But Dr. G, thank you so much. Great job.
Hey, thank you, Steve. I really appreciate it.
You make it so easy for people to understand something that's so intricate like the eye.
Hey, that's what I'm here for. A lot of people, they get overwhelmed, but that's what we're here for.
You got a good heart, Dr. G.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. And
yes,
we'll see you again down the road.
Of course.
That's the Wang Institute Vision. They're amazing. If you're anywhere in Tennessee, anywhere, you want to make sure, especially when it comes to the eye, that you go to the best. That's it for us today. We'll be back again with you next week with more Ask the Experts. Thank you, Miss Rebel. We'll see you all again soon.
Thanks for tuning in today to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. Tune in next week and every week to hear more from our experts on personal injury, insurance, air condition repairs, estate planning, Medicare, and many other topics in the areas of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. See you next week.